There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay. Hello, cousins. Thank you so much for joining me on this, which I'm sure you are already aware, being Cinco de Mayo, or as I think should be rebranded as Hit White People with Sticks Day. Because this is something that is never underestimate the power of white people to take over something that has nothing to do with them and make it about themselves. And this is no exception. So this is basically just an excuse for people to day drink and eat tacos and act like it's so cute and funny and take Instagram pictures. So I think any immigrant or any brown person should get to hit white people with sticks today. So that's my take on the whole thing, because, you know, if they're out partying while, you know, ICE is, you know, making people live in complete fear for their safety and for the safety of their family, well, it's so adorable to go out and take your stupid Instagram pictures with your margaritas and your tacos. Go fuck yourself hardcore. So that's where we are today. So thanks so much for joining and hearing about that. Shout out to the chat. Hey to Time Traveler and to Nathan. Thank you for hanging out with me today. As you can see, I'm taking up the whole pain. So we are Jaredless this week. Next week as well, because our own Mr. Mayor Jared is doing diplomacy in China. So he is making his return trip. He's getting to perform there. It's super exciting. He's been taking lots of pictures, and I'm loving seeing them. And you can't see them yet. They're private. They're free. But he will come back eventually. I don't know if it's going to be his immediate return. He might be a little, you know, travel lagged and want to, you know, kind of catch up on American doings, because he luckily gets the benefit of getting to disassociate from it for a little while. So that's pretty cool. And he's having a great time. I'm excited for him, and I can't wait to hear more. I've got lots of questions. So we'll do either right when he comes back, if he's feeling it, or sometime thereafter, we'll do a big China episode where I just kind of shoot questions at him, and he shares pictures and talks about his experience. So it's really cool for him to be able to be there, just to be there, because it's interesting and neat, but also, you know, to get to share his music with new audiences, and that's really cool. As you probably already know, our theme song is by him, so he's extremely talented, and we're really happy for him, and we're glad that he's having a great time. So I hope he continues to do so on the remainder of his trip and sell lots of albums, make lots of new fans. So that's where we are. So it's you just got me for a little while, and unless something crazy happens, I will let you know well ahead of time. But you know, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern here this week, and if that's the case next week as well, I might take a little respite. So I will let you know if there will or won't be a show next week. I have not yet decided. It kind of depends on if things go nuclear or if things are pretty quiet, then you don't necessarily need to hear my commentary all the time. But thank you anyways for hanging out, keeping me company. So we did have a couple of things going on, and it's more sort of on the social aspect of things, the dying empire aspect of things. I'm sure the media did not let you ignore the fact that yesterday was the Met Gala. And if you don't know what that is, which you probably do, because if you're watching this show, then you hate it, I'm sure. But it is a gala for the ultra rich, and it's about $25,000 per plate. And that's your, what you pay to attend. And then everybody that's these super rich people, mostly celebrities, get dressed up in really elaborate costumes as per a theme, and they go to the gala. Now, why did they do that? Are they just parading their wealth? Well, not exactly. And I'm somebody who's kind of can see both sides of this issue, because obviously, like we hate rich people, and the bourgeoisie are the problem. And this is exactly that. It's a bourgeoisie parade. But at the same time, it is intentionally supposed to be a fundraising effort, because it's for the museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and more specifically their fashion department, where they preserve and house costumes and clothing going all the way back to like the 1700s, so that they are serving an important artistic and historical function. So if you can get these rich assholes to pay a ton of money, and it's not like they're not getting something out of it, right? Like they are paying into an art, and they are also getting tons of exposure for this. So, some of the newer people, it could be a big moment. Some of the older established people, like whatever. But, so that's why I can say, like, even though the gala system is really grotesque on that, as far as that goes. It's, it is a parade of wealth. It is an embarrassment of riches. It is right in everybody's face at like a horrible, horrible time. It is also supposed to be for history and the arts. So, there is sort of a, how are you going to do this kind of a thing? If it's going to be all these celebrities, should they at least, have to parade for people? It kind of depends on how you feel about it. A lot of people are very upset about it, and rightfully so. You could be there's no really one or the other. You could, agree with both sides, or agree that it is gross, and agree that it is serving a pretty important function. But so those things aren't, they don't have to be on the opposite sides of the spectrum. It could be two things at once. So that's really where I see it. I was like, if they're going to do it anyways, it should at least be for a purpose. And it is, and it's a good purpose. But at the same time, things being what they are, it's, really, really in bad taste a lot of the time. And you say, okay, well, why can't we see these people doing more for people? Why can't we see them saying, oh, if you're going to go spend $25,000 to attend this event, then why can't you put that money towards charity? Well, you can't lump everybody together. You don't know that they're not. I'm not saying that they are or they aren't. I'm not an expert on everybody who attended. And it is a good point. I feel like, if you do attend, you should say, hey, I did pay this much money to do this thing, but also I paid equal amount of money to food banks. That would, I think, take the heat off a lot of people. But again, you have this, rich people disconnect where they really just don't care. They're not part of it. It's not part of their world. These are the people that that hold the train of your dress, and you walk past, and they're not thinking about it. So there were a lot of protests that were taking place in and around the area going on. And Chris Smalls was at one of them and was arrested. Unsurprisingly, he's kind of, he's protest leadership at this point. So, and speaking of him, he wasn't, because he was here doing this. There also was another flotilla seizure, another aid flotilla en route to Palestine was intercepted by Israel near Cyprus, and they were, beaten pretty badly, treated pretty badly, and right out of Israel's playbook, of course. So that's going on at the same time. We've got a lot of smaller stories, and I think that's actually a good thing right now, because it kind of gives everybody a chance to kind of take a breath and look at everything that's going on and make sure that they've, refocused on everything. So, so I'm going to be coming at you with a few kind of smaller scale. So we're going to kind of take a little bit of a leisure trip through the news, I think. Is what it's ultimately going to be. I'd like to also take this chance to remind you all, which I think you probably know by this point, that we are an independent show. We don't have sponsorship because why? Because you can't serve cunt if you're serving the empire. So we do everything ourselves. We're very, very homemade in that way. And we do really appreciate you hanging out with us and watching our show and checking out our archive and things like that, because you can always catch up on our past episodes after the live event. So that said, do remember that Jared is a musician. I'm a writer and artist. We're both opinionated jerks on this show, but you can support our doings by, Jared's on Bandcamp. He's anywhere you can download music, you can find his music. And for myself, I have 2 books on the market right now, and I got 2 more coming relatively soon. Not quite an ETA on those just yet, because I'm working on 2 at the same time. It wasn't intentional; it just happened that way. And I've also got tons and tons of artwork on Redbubble. If you don't know what Redbubble is, it's a website where artists put their work on pretty much any product you can think of, anything from stickers to shower curtains, on shirts, on clothing, on laptop covers, on, phone cases, anything you can think of at any price point. You can, and not just for myself, I say this, but you can go there and you can support, at least to some degree, artists that you like. You could find artists that you like and new people that you like, and then you can wear their stuff, like very proudly. I've got some designs out there that people wear, and I really appreciate that. So just also try to make sure that you are definitely getting it from the artist themselves, because there's a lot of scams going on out there. And then if you buy, somebody else's design from, a scam account, you're going to get something low quality and not intended. And then the artist doesn't get the money. So that's the only real downside of that. But I've got almost 1,000 different designs and paintings. If you've seen my artwork, you know exactly what that's about. Sometimes it's a very kind of artistic and realistic magical realism painting, and other times it's a dick with a beret. So I've got a pretty big spectrum of things going on there. So do not just for us, but just in general, if you like somebody's content like this, and you don't necessarily just want to be like, oh, I just want to give your show money or something like that, then go find out what else they do and buy their stuff. And that's where we are. And so we offer you things in exchange. You get something, we get something. And then that's a great model to adopt in general. If you like somebody, support them. And that's basically kind of the socialistic landscape of entertainment these days. If you like someone, support them. Okay, now that's all said. We have some neat stories today, I guess you might say, because I'm going to try to play a clip here in a minute, because my computer is haunted. It doesn't like to screen share, so we're going to do our best on that one. I've got something pulled up, and we're going to cross our fingers real good and hope that something comes out. But now, I will say again about the Met Gala, it is interesting if you are into fashion or things like that. So I'm not going to pretend like it's not an interesting thing. I just feel like it's also, it can be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, and it is. And so you can, look at it and be like, okay, neat, but also, I would really like a bigger statement. And I think also it's kind of turned into a thing where people are like, I'm not going. Like, okay, like, cool. That's cool or whatever, but like, are you capitalizing on saying I'm not going because it's your conviction, like you really mean it, or is it because you think it's cool not to, like, that kind of thing? Because we have a lot of people who are like also very out of touch people who said some shitty things, who are like, and then some other people who are like, no, I'm not going because this is a massive loss of perspective, and this really needs to stop, and this is an embarrassment of riches, such and such and such. So it's kind of an individual case by case situation. And so that's something, to kind of consider, think about, when you see something this big going on. And it's up to you whether or not what side or both sides you like to view it from. So at the same time, right now we're kind of also seeing, again, this is kind of taking more social aspect to what's going on, because in the national news, international news, nothing's really changing. We're not really seeing a lot of forward movement between, any kind of real significant talks between the United States and Iran. You know that Pakistan is mediating these things, but what this has done, and I think maybe what the greatest benefit to the most amount of people, is that people have taken the opportunity to countries outside the United States have taken the opportunity to unite outside of the sphere of the United States, because people are the United States has been the bully of the world for so long at this point. Basically, I'd say since World War II. Like, after that point, it just became, okay, America or nothing, and you do what we say, with the formation of NATO and such. And I'll have a comment on that here in a second as well, because there's a little bit of forward movement on that. But this, I think, the best outcome, we're seeing it in real time, which is that other countries are uniting, both for their own bottom line. It's not like out of the kindness of their hearts necessarily, but they're uniting, they're talking, and a lot of them are doing so, talking to Russia and China, who we are consistently, beaten over the head, told, oh, these are your enemies, this is the worst thing forever. And it's like, at what point, if you are a millennial, maybe even Gen X, you've never lived in a world, and I would wager to go back even much further, you've never lived in a world where those weren't the big scary enemies of the world. They're the bad guys, not the United States doing horrible shit openly in front of your face, destabilizing global economies, destroying infrastructure, and creating slavery, and ruining countries' ability to do agriculture and feed and themselves and sustain any kind of meaningful living. And not to mention, just like, point anywhere on a map and it's genocide after genocide after genocide. We're in a couple of them now. But we're always told that no, we're a big American hero, dick swinging, and that's the thing that we do, and that's who we are. And if we do it, it's right. And for many generations, that was just the de facto belief of things, that like, oh well, if the government's doing it, it's the right thing. And then we start to separate from that, and now we're at a point where the tricks aren't working anymore. The old school people don't understand why the tricks aren't working anymore, and they're not getting savvy enough, fast enough to stop people from believing it. And now, I'm not saying that the mainstream person, like your next door neighbor, like literally every person that isn't still falling for this spiel, the nightly news spiel. But we are at a point where if we're not at an inflection point, we're close to it, because we are seeing a lot more people in a lot more individualized ways say no. We know who's at fault here. We know who's terrorizing the world, and we don't personally have a problem with Iran. We don't personally have a problem with China. We're seeing the videos. We understand like what it is to live in a real functioning society, and we want that. Everybody here is, sick and diseased and being, just absolutely exploited at every complete turn, with everything from like having your wages stolen to having to watch 10,000 ads a second. Like there's no relief in this country from the horrors. And then we find out, what we all believe to be true is true. And this is again why I'm really not super worried about what rich people do with their money at the Met Gala, so long that they're not like, like assaulting children and eating people. Like, fine, sounds good. Do whatever you want to do. Because when we find out all that's true and it's fucking confirmed, like all bets are off at this point, and nobody has to listen to anybody. And that's basically where we are and what's going on. And we are talking here about, and again in the chat, Time Traveler mentions that the world is turning against America, and I'm kind of going roundabout here, but that's what I'm trying to say. They're taking the moment. A lot of these other countries, even large countries, really weren't going to be able to, even uniting with each other, going to be able to do anything, right? Like they're like, oh, we need to get out from under America's control. We need to stop paying this, this mob boss for protection, and then they're brutalizing us. The entire global South, basically, they were never really going to be able to stand up until this opportunity arose. And the United States did it to themselves, and something you've heard us say quite a bit on this is obviously the government is fake. They have never shown you that more. There used to be a kind of decorum behind that, where they pretended that they had some sort of modicum of power, or pretended that if you elected me, that means I'm an official and I officiate and I do the bidding of the people. Now they just don't even hide it anymore. Now they're like, yeah, no, we are literally getting paid for by lobbies, and they decide. The pharmaceutical companies decide what happens. Lockheed Martin decides what happens. The Israel lobby decides what happens. That they're writing our policy. So to at this point even pretend like from like your local dog catcher all the way up to president are useful for anything or helpful or doing the will of the people, then just look around at all the data centers being built flagrantly against the will of the people who live there, right? And that's happening at a rapid rate because, just an example, I mean, you could point to literally anything going on, but just an example, that's happening so fast because they, I don't think that the people doing this are necessarily worried legislation is going to come in and be like, oh, you can't do this anymore because they write the rules, but they're trying to get as many things in place before some potential rebellion of people, like when people really start uniting over things. So if you look on that, like what's the heat that's growing in the United States against, you also don't need to be a politically motivated person to not want that shit in your neighborhood. And then that's what radicalizes you, right? Like you could be one of these people who just ignored shit. I don't do politics. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to unfriend people for believing something different than me. I'm not going to be short-sighted. Okay, that guy doesn't want a fucking data center in his back fucking yard. And that's generally all it takes. It's like when you finally start bothering me, and I do have another point on that, and I'll get to in a minute. That's when people start waking up to things. So if you take that kind of mentality and you put it on the global scale, then what you are seeing is people uniting against the United States and for the better of the world, the people of the world, even though the United States citizens are the ones that are going to suffer the most from this. For the benefit of the world, that's the best thing to do, is unite against the United States. So I think there's no better time to do that. I think that they've really had to wait a long time and pick their moment. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing, and you're getting a lot of that from like outside sources, because the United States is pretending, it has state media and is pretending it isn't happening. And at the same time that's happening, we know that NATO and the United States have always been basically synonymous. And now there's NATO, the NATO countries, which deserve their own heat. Like they don't get to absolve themselves of something else because now they're jumping on the bandwagon here. But the NATO countries are now talking about doing a resolution to exclude and remove the United States, and then like that would be huge. The implications of that would be huge because the United States has the lion's share of military. The idea is like, well, you support us, pay a little bit, pay what you can pay, and we'll protect you. We'll put military bases all over your country and all over your neighbors and put it everywhere. But now, these NATO countries are like, we'll think we're going alone, right? So, and again, the who's going to suffer but the United States. But now when we look at like, okay, there's no real power structure in the U.S. other than the billionaires and the corporations deciding policy. They're really just stripping the country for parts at this point because they do see China as being the shining light on the hill, right? Like they do see it. The writing is on the wall. So they're getting everything they can get, scrapping down everything, taking everything, scraping everything down, destroying everything, taking the last bit of income and commerce that they can out of here, and then they're gonna fucking bounce, and it's gonna be a goddamn ghost town. Now, there's, you've heard of end-stage capitalism, which is kind of a cutesy way of saying fall of the empire, because we don't exactly know how it's going to happen. Now, it could happen the way that Rome fell, which is sort of, it just kind of dissolved, right? Like power just kind of spread out and all these countries became their own. They all had their own little despots and everybody fought little wars. And then finally just time passed and there just wasn't Rome anymore. There was no great big fall of Rome necessarily. But then also you have during the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, after that had happened and the czars were all killed and all this and that, shit got bad, real bad. So we don't really know what lies in store for us, if it's going to be or if it's going to be, bad. So my guess, bad. But that's kind of where we are, just kind of international news. Otherwise, we're just kind of sitting and waiting to hear more. And again, Jared and myself, we're not reporters. We're not boots on the ground. We cannot necessarily say for sure what's happening. We can only say what we've seen in more trustworthy sources. When we're wrong, we say we're wrong. But that's what we're looking at. So we kind of have to go week to week to say, what's happening? What do we know? What does this look like? And we kind of always end up in the kind of the prediction stage of things. So we do know that we are at the fall of the United States finally, but we just don't know what shape that's going to necessarily take. And we've never also seen a movement against the United States so much, where countries or NATO are saying no more, and they're kind of using this conflict with Iran to do it, to get the guts to do it, because they can, maybe like 5 or 8 countries can't do it together, but maybe like 70% of the world at one time can. So that's what they're really taking the moment. And you're also not seeing it ever being reported in the United States news that Iran has very strategically, absolutely decimated many, many military bases and sites around their country. I mean, not necessarily but like around the area, which only ingratiates their own neighbors to them, and we're talking about no longer functional, right? And a lot of these people who want to have a more peaceful existence, who don't want this bully looming over them, who don't necessarily feel conflict with the American people or with other people around them, are looking for, of course, everybody's seeking peace. I mean, obviously there's commerce to be done, whether you're a communistic society or you're a capitalist society. Peace is just kind of a nice byproduct of things. And, you tend to get what you want more. And a lot of places aren't necessarily as driven to destroy as the United States are. So it's a very, very United States Western mentality. And then you also have, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, NATO's trying to kind of get away, but America's got allies, Britain, Canada, Australia. And if you look at them, they are following the United States right over the cliff. Like we just had the bullshit monarchy here being like, let's do World War III, bros. High five me. And that's, where we basically are, okay, like you guys obviously wanted, all your shit to fail too. They're also pushing this idea in Canada right now of having to use IDs to use the internet because they're so afraid of chatbots. Well, okay, if you're really fucking afraid of chatbots talking to kids, outlaw the fucking chatbots. Like that should not be a thing anyway. And I don't care if some people like them or they're fucking useful or what the fuck ever. No one should be using them for fucking anything ever. So, but no, it's a mass surveillance rollout. And probably not long before the United States tries to adopt it. Land of the free, though, right, bros? So, we've got that going on. And we know that, another place like Australia is super austere, just like the United States. They all take the United States lead because they are afraid themselves of any kind of backlash. Now, if they had any backbone whatsoever, they'd, hop on with these other countries and pick their moment, but they don't want to. They hold the same values, and they think they can be under the umbrella of protection under the United States if they continue to serve the master. And that's really what we're looking at here. So they're not helping themselves. You will also hear British citizens, you will hear Canadian citizens, but to a slightly lesser degree, Australians for sure, saying our leadership is fucked, our lives are shit, like this is everything, our economies are really bad also, like we are also paying fuck tons for basic living, like things are not good here also, but just kind of to a slightly lesser degree. But then they will go, but we're the free country, we're free though, we're free of all that tyranny and shit. And then then other people are like, no the fuck we're not. So they are going through kind of like mini versions of what the United States is going through. And The difference is literally size. Like, these are a lot smaller countries with a lot smaller populace. The United States is fucking huge, guys. Like, it's huge. I know a lot of you know that if you've traveled or anything, but like, and it's, you got to get into the idea of like, okay, well, what's good for New York is not necessarily good for California, because different things, different factors, different environments, whatever. So that's what we're really looking at. Like, it's this country is basically impossible to govern in a real or fair way. And that's, again, what comes next after the fall, because I can't really see any kind of new government coming in that's really going to be any kind of effect or use. Because, once people start, realizing this shit doesn't fucking work at any level, and really start waking up and becoming radicalized because of the, things like the data centers and the energy use and, all this, when it becomes their problem, that's kind of what everybody on the left is like, all right, let's go. We're like, why aren't you guys noticing anything? Because it wasn't affecting them. That's the direct way to what's affecting them. And that's something I did want to talk about today. That's sort of my main point of today. I know I kind of hit a few high spots there, but I'm kind of getting to an idea, like what we're really in here, and what has kind of come up recently on the internet in the last few weeks is kind of the idea of bourgeoisie. So bourgeoisie socialism, right? Okay, well, what's that? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's I think if you boil it down, it's really where you get, and I think a lot of you probably have experienced this, where liberals are like, I'm so leftist, I'm on the left, I'm a socialist, right? And then when it's time for action, oh, actually, no, I think maybe we should hear out both sides. I think maybe that's not our business. I think maybe we should leave that to the experts. I don't know. I think I shouldn't. I think, so when there's action to be done, we see liberals suddenly, they want to brand themselves as leftists, as socialists, even communists sometimes, because they think it sounds cool and they think it make them look edgy, and like people like, oh yeah, you are informed, things, but then they immediately backtrack on it if you ask them to do anything or get involved in any way. So the only real way to radicalize them is through messing up their lives, like, oh, you don't have a problem with AI, you think it's cool, you think your little AI doodle there is real neat, okay, well, hey, your boss just sent you an email and said don't come into work tomorrow, you're fucking fired, okay, because we're automating your job. Oh, and by the way, over there across the street in your actual fucking neighborhood, data center. Are you going to pay for that now? You're ready to go through some blackouts electrically, and you're going to have dirty water, and it's going to be light pollution and noise pollution for the rest of fucking time. But hey, there might be like 20 jobs once. So until you get into these people's faces and make it their actual problem, the problem is the bourgeoisie socialism, because it's not like, oh, we serve socialism in any kind of way because I'm a good person. I'm not making the comment that liberals can't be good people, like that's the same thing. And that's why you often see leftists align more or be more open to the more MAGA set, because those people figured it out a lot faster, right? Those people were impacted in a lot greater ways than your average liberal who's still like, I still have my job. No, I swear they could never fire me. I'm so valuable. There's no way to automate my job. I live in a neighborhood. There's nowhere to even put a data center. Meanwhile, these are the people who are like, no, we can't have like a rehab in my neighborhood because what about my property values, right? So that's why we're always railing on the left against liberalism. If you're like, why are you always up the Democrats' ass? Why are you always, going after liberals? You guys should basically be on the same side. We're not on the same side, because those are the people who are generally affluent, have really had no reason to get into the sphere of politics, because they benefit from it. And that's always been what it is. It's like, those are the people who are out with having a margarita today and getting, and shorting a Mexican server the tip, right? Like that is who you're talking to. And those people are fucking unmovable until it literally is in their own backyard. So if there is something good to come of the AI horror that we're living through, That's what it's going to be, that it's going to finally turn people who we see diametrically as our enemy. Because when you look at the MAGA set, like, yeah, a lot of them are well-to-do, a lot of them, middle-class white boomers or upper-class white boomers or retirees who are like had never had a worry in their entire life. But a lot of them, like let's put our thinking tubes on and go back to when Trump was in his first term and what he was campaigning on. A lot of those people bought into the idea like, well, we've never heard of this guy as a politician, but he's a celebrity. He's like a lifelong celebrity. He's got a television show. And what is this man known for? Making money. That's literally his whole thing, is being a rich guy, right? So we don't need to know another single thing about him. We don't care about what he's been, what kids he's fucked. We don't care about his background. We just need to know this guy make money. This guy say he's going to give money to us. Of course, it wasn't true. Like, there's nobody less likely to give up a penny to anybody for anything. But they bought into that. And like, there you have everybody on the outside, liberals and leftists included, going, this is some bullshit, right? But the difference there was that, like, a lot of the liberals were like, okay, the Democrats are going to save us. Here we go. And full disclosure, Jared and myself started out as shit libs. We went through the pipeline. We went through, like, the Bernie rocket ride. Now we're here, where we appreciate Bernie kind of opening our mind to a different way of being, but also recognize him to be a fucking class traitor at this point, worried about his own interests and supporting Israel. So there's no one, you get to the point where it's like, fool me once. And then it's like, 8 or 10 more cycles. Fool me several more times, and I'm going to keep falling for it. Like, you cannot keep just believing what these people say, and they don't even lie to you anymore. They're like, no, we're not fucking doing shit. Fuck you. And then they put people forward like Gavin Newsom. And that's the thing too. This fucking smarmy ass haircut is like, who is literally calling for things like, like domestic military service or compulsory military service. And what I mean by that is just like, other countries where you get out of school and you have to serve military. Fuck you forever. We're not doing that. Okay. And he was intentionally posing for photos of himself tearing down homeless camps. Like, this is a man who is pandering to the right because he's been told to pander to the right. He has been chosen. He's probably going to be the next president, but we're going to have liberals going, no, he's different. Okay. He's going to save us. And maybe we all should serve in the military after high school. Cause like, you don't even know what you're going to do in your life or whatever. This isn't motherfucking Israel. Okay. We're not fucking doing that. That's not going to happen. And I know people would take to the fucking streets. Like, that would turn a lot of people right there. Like, that's not fucking happening. The end. Like, that's where we're literally talking about. No, like putting on the brakes here. Like, they're only going to really, what they don't seem to recognize is the people who are, pushing these ideals and these people that they're putting forward. Like, they're not waking up to the fact that we're talking about, like, okay, these are puppets. They're being told what to say. They're being told what to do. Like, don't be telling me that things would have been different under Kamala when she literally said what she was going to do, and that Iran was the enemy, and that we were going to continue following Israel and or supplying Israel with whatever the fuck they need to terrorize the region, and so on and so forth. The words through the drunken salad did come out of her mouth many, many times. So what does this really mean? I want to give you a real life example. Now, this is something that kind of blew up on the internet here over the last week. So there's a good chance that you have seen this already, but it's a 2-minute clip. So I'm going to let it run and I'm going to be quiet and let it happen. And just let you guys watch and you kind of illustrate what I'm saying here, where liberals want to brand themselves as being leftists because it sounds cool, but they actually have no fucking values and don't have anything to stand on, especially when it comes to things that don't affect them. They are never going to think of somebody else. So this is a clip from a stand-up show, and I don't have the comedian's name, but I'm sure you could figure out who it was if you really wanted to know and follow him. But he was doing crowd work and kind of centers in on this liberal person identifying themselves as leftist, and then he just works with them and finds out, oh, you're a military contractor, but it's okay because you're trans, like, that's all right, like, and then really makes them kind of have to verbalize how fucking awful and without values and feckless that they really are. So I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to be quiet for a couple of seconds and let you guys watch this, and hopefully it'll work. Okay. Work with me here.
What are your jobs?
I sold my soul, and I work for a defense contractor.
You work for a defense contractor? Wow, that is not who I thought you were going to be. Can I get some pronouns going? She, her, okay, got it. Are you a trans woman? May I ask that? Is that right? You're a trans woman. Now, are you the only trans woman working at the defense contractor? No? There's just a defense contractor full of trans women? Just dropping bombs on brown people? How about those pronouns? Okay, so you make motors for what exactly? Rocket motors. Oh, rocket, for rockets. So like when that school in Iran... Dude, that's a pickle for a liberal, don't you think? You're like, technically the motors were made by trans women, so... Who are you on the side of, liberals? But are you a liberal? Okay. You're very leftist. But then help me understand the logic. But that's a lot. Isn't that a lot of money? I feel like... I feel like there's a middle ground somewhere in there. Are you like pro-capitalism? No, you hate capitalism. You just build rocket motors for our military? Have you had other jobs? What were those? You got radicalized at a Starbucks thing? It was local. Oh, I'm sorry. How dare I accuse you of working at a terrible corporate entity like Starbucks? I don't understand you one little bit. You go to therapy. Did you talk about building the rocket motors in therapy?
No, I talk about my trauma.
Okay. Tell me what your trauma is. Your dad is your trauma? Yeah, you know what some people's trauma is? Getting hit by a highly propellant rocket.
Okay. It's a funny clip, but I really think what's important and the big takeaway here is that this liberal was like literally out and proud, like telling you everything that you needed to know about liberalism. Like this is literally how they are, what they believe. And I wish I knew that. I forgot to look his name up, but I wish I could tell you his name. But he didn't take it at all. Like he was like, okay, whatever, next. And like he centered in on this person and didn't necessarily like, oh, you stupid bad fucker, you're terrible and horrible. Like that's the thing. Like no, like it literally just like when you challenge somebody who has no values and is all in it for themselves, which they clearly proved with what they had to say there, it is, shows you like they've got nothing and they don't even care that they've got nothing. And that right there is the fundamental problem that the left has with liberals and Democrats, who are essentially synonymous, and why that they, we basically write off the right, the conservatives, MAGAs. We basically write them off, like you're not worth the argument. You're not a problem, even though you much more easily could probably be turned or brought into the fold, and we could easily net you and bring you over and be like, and then they'd be much more likely to listen. These liberals think that they're better than everybody, and this is the real problem that we face. And so everybody's like, why is everybody on the left so mean? Why are communists so fucking mean? Because we are expected to know every bit of theory. We are expected to be fucking scholars on everything that's ever been read and written. Oh, by the way, it's Marx's birthday today, so Cinco de Mayo. Fuck that. It's Marx Day is what you call it. I think like the 208th birthday or something like that. Anyway, point is that when they show you who they are, believe them, and that's what we're really talking about, and that's who the fight is really about. Like, and that is at the core, bourgeoisie socialism, and that's why you see a lot of people, wanting to do these sort of like fights between. We don't really get into the whole podcaster fight, like celebrity nonsense, whatever, because it's stupid, it's a waste of time, and that's what they want you to do. That's just like identity politics that distract you from the class war, which is where your mind should be. So when people are like, Hassan Piker is a fraud and a fake and a Democrat shill, They're right. But the point is that, he's also a millionaire. He's made his money off of doing this. He could stop doing it tomorrow and he would be fucking fine. But his bullshit is not my problem, right? If you choose to listen to him, it's your problem. Like, there's the same way if you're going to listen to Nick Fuentes or any of these other yahoos, right? Like, yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and act like, I'm also not in the position of being a talking head, and doing the same thing. But I think that what is said here is there are people who have conviction and there are people who are in it for the celebrity and the money. And I'm not saying that wouldn't be great. I'm sure it would be. But then when you get to people like, Jared and myself, we're the proletariat. As you well know, AI put me out of work and my options are fucking limited right now. So if you guys don't buy my books and art, I might just have to die. Like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to survive. And not to put that on anybody, I'm just saying my options are very, very limited at this point because I've been out of work consistently for a very long time. I've been able to do some other things like make some music videos and stuff for some people, but I really don't have any kind of consistent income outside of what I do, and I'm at the point where I kind of don't have a choice but to try to transition that into my full-time thing, which is what I want to do. But you kind of feel like maybe it'd be nice to feel like I was ready and stable for that, to do that. So you are talking to proletariat and sub-proletariat people here on this show, who are not pretending to not be that, or who are secret millionaires or something. If I was a secret millionaire, I wouldn't say it, but like you would probably know. So these pearls would be real. So that's what we're really talking about here. We're checking on some of your comments here real quick. I like to bring you guys into the fold. Okay. Time Traveler says, I love that guy. Nathan Coyote says, to be a liberal is to be the audience. Being a leftist is being part of the team. Liberals calling themselves leftists is like someone who watches sports calling themselves an athlete. You know what that is? That is really, really an excellent analogy there. Thanks, bud. I really appreciate that point of view, because that really does summarize things. It's like it literally is somebody who watches football and is like, yeah, I'm the quarterback. Like, no, the fuck you're not. Like, everybody knows you're the fucking not. And if somebody in your life said that, you'd be like, all right, this person has fucking problems. But when it becomes applied to like world politics and people dying on the other side of the world, they'd be like, yeah, everybody thinks that because it's really cool if you say that you're against it or whatever. What am I going to say? I'm for it? Come on. And then you know that they don't give a shit. It's not about like pretending that you're something that you're not so much as it is pretending that like you care about something that you don't. Like that's the thing. Like that's where they're like, it's like where somebody, like, oh, we're all wearing pink today, and then somebody who doesn't even like the color pink wears pink, and they're like, I'm one of you guys. Like, you could lay any kind of analogy against it. It's just people who want to be a part of the group so bad that have no conviction towards anything. Bourgeois socialism, and that's what we're really talking about here. It's literal sense. It's being a poser. It's saying I'm something that I'm not. I'm somebody who I'm somebody who I think will be cool to say that I am, and then that's where we're really talking about. Now, if you ask these people, okay, say like a couple of years ago, go back before like 2022, like back before AI was ruining everything, right? It was the same people, right? But they were maybe even more aggressive about it at that point because they didn't have anything really bearing down on them. It wasn't their problem. And then it took literally having to go, not in my backyard, to get these people's attention, because some of these people and many, many more, some of the first things you ever heard me say, as I was one of the first casualties to lose my job to AI, right? I was a professional writer. I'm a professional writer in the creative space, but I was a professional writer in like the medical, legal, educational space. Those jobs, my company that I worked for was purchased by an AI company before anybody knew what that was. And they literally had AI in the title and nobody knew what that was. And then about 6 months later, gone. Like the job was gone. Like an AI company arose before anybody even knew what it was. So these people who do these things, they know what they're doing well ahead of what that happens. And then we're saying, oh, this company just laid off 30,000 employees. This company just laid off 50,000 employees, so on and so forth. So if you want to sit there and tell me that you have job safety, you fucking don't. I mean, maybe if you work a trade, like that's like the best thing. And you've been hearing a lot of people on the left for many years say get into trades. But that's also kind of an ableist attitude, because they're like, oh, okay, if you have a disability and you can't physically stand up or crawl under a house, like how are you supposed to get into a fucking trade? Like those are physical jobs. And in essence, you're serving a much more important function, but you are still selling your body in the way that, like, okay, like I'm going to go and do plumbing for the next 40 years of my life. Like I definitely won't have knee and back problems when that's over with, right? You are literally selling your body in the same way. So that's kind of where we're at. Like you really got to look at like what is going on, like how are we gonna skew this with the future, right? And that doesn't happen with everybody taking a back seat. We've really been over the generations of time, and it might be like like I'm not exactly sure that you could point to one specific thing, but we've never lived in a really great society, right? And then we've talked several times about the fact that like nothing has advanced with at least the last 10 years. If you look back at America's history, like you could be like, oh man, like the 20s, it was the jazz age, shit was going on. Before that, it was like the First World War and everything changed. Then the 30s happened and like movies were coming in and sound was coming into movies. In the 40s, things were like America was starting to happen, and cars and things and like this. In the 50s, music and teenage and youth. And then in the 60s, rebellion and hippie age and Woodstock and so on and so forth. Every one of these decades loosely had its own very specific social and political identities. You get into the 2000s and you get up to about 2010 and you come to now, no change. We have had no change, except things have gone worse. On the graph, instead of going up and to the right, it's down and to the right. Like things have, our life expectancies have gotten worse. Our living conditions have gotten worse. There's something like 70% of people reporting at this time from different polls. I think the consensus is around 70% of people can't afford to live in a basic way. We are all struggling. And if that is not enough to unite you, like look into history. What happens when everybody starts struggling? Some people tend to lose their fucking heads. That's where we really are talking about. And that's the kind of thing. Time Traveler says that the name of the comedian is Lucas Zennick. So if you want to go ahead and follow him, he seems like he's I don't know his whole thing, but he had a really good point of view on taking that liberal person to task, and I do appreciate getting to see that. And Nathan says AI is like GM buying all the car companies and sinking them. Yeah. And he details cars for a living. Yeah. So he would know. And that's the thing too. Like, yeah, you probably have some, at least let's say more job security for a longer period of time. But I don't want to tell you what, but I would think that like eventually somebody somewhere is trying to figure out how to automate your job. And again, we have said multiple times on the show, we're not Luddites here. Like, we're not looking at this and saying like, fuck technology, fuck the future. Like it's already fucked on its own. Okay. Like our thing is like, no, what we want to happen is to figure out how to do this sustainably, do this so it's like, okay, if AI was a thing where it's like, oh, it's 100% correct every fucking time, it doesn't hallucinate anything, it's never wrong, and we figured out how to power it without stealing all of the fucking resources and poisoning the earth, I think everybody would be like, that sounds fucking great, right? Instead of this, it was rushed out and rammed down our fucking throats, and you've got to be absolutely wary of anything they're trying to give your ass for free, right? So, they want you to be dependent on it, and it took a matter of months before people were like making these things their girlfriend. Like it took a matter of months before people stopped. Have you seen the commercials for like Google AI, where it literally has students asking how to like write a citation for their paper and put this in a certain APA form or some shit like that? Like, no, you don't need, unless you're going into academics, you don't need to know how to do a fucking citation. Agreed. But you need to fucking learn how to learn. And that's the way it is. And it is stealing the ability to learn. It is stealing people's ability to critically think even worse than it was before. And now we have people that are just complete, absolute piles of shit morons, so much more than they were, because now they just sit around and let a computer do everything for them, and which is wrong most of the time. So, you know, that was the entire idea. Give this shit to people for free, like it's crack basically, and then like use it against them. So that's what we're really talking about here. Get people addicted to something, get them using something that they feel like they can't live without. Okay, you want to tell me after like 6 months with AI, when you're addicted to it now, what were you doing 6 months ago? Were you functioning? Were you live on the fucking planet? Like, this is really like, this summarizes your emails. Wow, that's saving you so much time and fucking mental effort for what? For you to write your fucking manifesto? Give me a fucking break. So, like, that's what we're talking about here. We're not against technology marching forward, which we know it has not in the past, at least here in the past several years. But we are very much for the advancement of technology, but we want, you know, it to be responsible. We want it to actually function like it's supposed to function. And if it's going to take all the gerbs, it needs to actually have social safety nets in there, not just billionaires going, haha, yeah, you won't have to work anymore. Wink. As you know, like we don't fucking know what that means. So, and then we get the Epstein fucking files, literally where these people are talking to each other about how to fucking wipe out the population. So, like, don't act like we don't know what you're fucking up to. But more people, more everyday people, whether it takes data centers in their backyard or whatever, have got to, on their own or whatever, because you can yell at them all day long and they're not going to listen to you. Or if that were the case, we'd have like 20 million fucking views a show, right? Like, we'd have so many people tuning into this, it would be ridiculous. Nobody listens to anybody until it actually happens to you. And if that's what this takes, then fine. I guess it's a necessary evil. Yes, you're right. Nathan says it has ruined social media. It has. We now also are seeing studies saying that since AI's arrived, about 50% of all traffic and websites are fake at this point. Anytime I post any kind of artwork on any social media or writing, I'm just absolutely fucking deluged by scam bots. Like, I can't post shit. Nobody can fucking see anything, because it's just like, I can't tell who's seeing anything because my shit is just full. And these social media companies aren't doing anything about it, because you know why? That's still engagement. They still have your time. They still have your attention. They've still got you looking at 100 fucking ads while you're trying to report this person or this account and whatever. And they don't care and they don't do anything about it. So, like, we do want to see a world where something like AI that actually functions the way that they promise it functions, but it doesn't, is automating things that we don't necessarily need, where it's doing the jobs, where where automation, physical automation, like robots on assembly lines, are doing that in a larger capacity. And people don't have to do these things, which leaves people to be people. That is the ultimate goal. That is the Jetsons fucking future that we're looking for. That is the ultimate goal of what we're supposed to be trying to do. And that is what we see happening in China right now, on the internet, all over the place. I know I wasn't the only one that saw the video of the woman get diagnosed and a prescription in 12 motherfucking minutes at a hospital. So, like, these things are possible, not even possible, but already in action in other places with different politics and different attitudes about how to live and do things. Now, AI is being used responsibly, blanket statement there, but more responsibly and implemented more responsibly, ecologically responsibly by China, because they have the infrastructure and the plan to do it. And we do not, and we never did, because we stopped developing infrastructure fucking like in the goddamn fucking Eisenhower administration. They built the highways and we were done. And that was it. Like, we have no fucking infrastructure. It does not change. It doesn't support anything. They're like, oh, we gave you a roundabout. Yeah, that fucking fixes everything, right? So if automation existed and AI existed, in such a way that it really did, in fact, benefit people, then we're like all about it. That's what we want. We definitely want, because that is literally the future we're going for. But right now, it is being implemented and rammed down our throats by billionaires who eat fucking people. So, like, you should obviously not be taking your cues or believing in people who eat other people for fun. I mean, if you take nothing else from what I've said here or what I have ever said in my public life, like, you do not get a say when the people making the decisions, how you and everyone you know are going to live, are also eating people. Okay, that's just the basic fucking situation. That's all that there really is to take away from anything. Everything is off at that point. It's like, oh yeah, we could have said that all this time, secret societies, whatever, blood drinking, all this, skull and bones crap. But now it's on paper, it is confirmed. We also still don't have all those files. That 3 million page dump or whatever, that was a drop in the fucking bucket compared to what they actually have. So they are still hiding that information from us. They're covering up for themselves, for each other. And if you think that, Democrats aren't involved in all of this, you're nuts. Like, so that's another thing too. Like, that's another thing. Liberals are still idolizing people and acting like they're going to save the fucking day, that they can vote their way out of this. No, you can't literally point to any situation in this country and tell me how a Democrat improved it. Right. And now we have Obama back on the populist tour because his library has been erected and finished. And now he's trying to get back into the celebrity sphere of things, going out and hanging out and singing kid songs to children with Mom Donnie, which is fucking disgusting, if you ask me. Not because I think that he shouldn't be around children, just because I think that, all of these people need to go to the sun. That's the whole thing. We have been deeply betrayed on every single level by people that people believed in, the hope and the joy and all this crap that they sold people on, like, oh, shit is going to change. Like, back when Obama came into his first shit, like, what was it, 2008? And it's like, oh, the hope and change is going to fucking happen. Like, some real dignity being brought in after all the shit we've been drugged through up to this fucking point. And then nothing fucking changed. And then that guy, because he was a lawyer and was well-spoken, people act like his big faux pas was wearing a tan suit, when in the background of shit going on, and when they're bombing fucking innocent people by drone, and he literally said, I'm really good at killing people. Fuck that guy, okay? Like, he is not your fucking champion. He is not your hero. And that was still back when they were pretending that they were in service to people in any meaningful way, okay? So, like, we need to be done with this structure, and I like to call it shadow government because I think it sounds cool, but Jared always corrects me and says, no, that's called dual power. And that's what we need to be really looking at for the long-term future. Because if you don't want to end up fucking, explaining, acting out Star Wars over a fucking trash can fire while everybody eats a bite of barbecued squirrel, because that's our fucking future right now. Like, we need something that is going to sustain into the future. If no one provided it for us up to this point, there is no social and political identity other than conflict and capitalism in the last several decades compared to previous years. Not to say they were any less corrupt, that's not, but like I was saying earlier, there's no social identity because nothing has changed. You're not going to look back on this era and be like, oh, like, yeah, the 2020s, those were a really like artsy and neat and cool year. We got this. No, you don't. You're not going to look at that like you do the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. Like that, it's nothing. It's just nothing. And all this is a complete and utter destruction of what little we already had. And when we also are seeing and being made aware that the bare minimum, like, and I'm not, China's doing more than the bare minimum, let me be clear. And a lot of the countries, Asian countries, are doing more than the bare minimum. But like, if you looked at that as the bare minimum, like America being, if you buy into the hype, they should be like, oh, America, hoorah, we're doing that, but like 10 times better, right? They couldn't be like, they're 100 times worse. So no more propaganda, no more America, is the land of milk and honey, no more beer and Skittles. We got to move past this idea. And no, we know if you've been in the left sphere of things long enough, you're not convincing anybody of anything. Anybody that's listening to me today, I'm preaching to the choir. Our only intention is to kind of like just have an open discussion here and make some points about like why you shouldn't, when they say this is what it actually means. When they're doing this is what they're actually doing. And trying to make the point that there is more to be said and more to do. And then we're like, oh, mutual aid. Again, that's not always available to everybody, but we do need to at least start thinking outside of this rigid structure that never actually worked, that was instituted 300 years ago by people with, yeasty balls and slaves. They don't need to be dictating what happens to us anymore. We're going to have to make our own way at some point. And that, yeah, big fucking drag, but somebody's going to have to do some revolution here so soon, right? Like, yeah, I know it's totally cutting into your me time or whatever, but like, how much worse does your life, look at your life, your own life, how much worse does your life have to get before you feel motivated to listen? Like, and I'm not pointing at fingers at anybody, especially the people listening, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. But the point being is, for these liberals, like, what's it going to take? You can't convince them. I can't. We've been trying to do it for years. Like, okay, is it going to take things getting like, oh, you lost your job to AI and then they built the data center for you to like, go to a community meeting about it? To be like, stop trying to tell people to vote your way out of shit. Like, get your own ideas here, because whatever it is that it's going to take, and I'm not saying that there's one route to change or better, all we are going for is better. All we are going for is better. We live substandard lives. We live substandard lives compared. And you just get the one, right? Like, like we could talk about, philosophy and souls and reincarnation all day, but I'm talking about this one right here, right now. This is the one that you're stuck in. Okay, so if you want to wait till the next one, cool. But if you want to just like not live every day in horror and misery, we gotta start at least getting our heads in the right place and preparing for the idea that what we have been saying since day one of this show is it's coming for all of the jobs, right? And they're trying to make us all even further into a slave society to service them. So no, we can't fight the billionaires. No, we can't fight the corporations, not on our own, not a couple of yahoos on the internet here. But if you start getting your head around, I'm being lied to, everything is a lie, my boss is a fucking liar, his boss is a fucking liar, the people that are selling us the food are fucking liars, the people who are running the electric companies are fucking liars, the private equity companies are fucking liars, the militaries are fucking liars, the president's a fucking liar, the billionaires are fucking liars, then you start to at least embrace a little bit something outside of what you've been told your entire life. And I've yelled at you for an hour now, and I've had a great time talking about the horrors here. And thanks so much for those of you who kept me company. As always, you can find our archive of shows. Like if there's any particular topic you want to know that we've talked about, you can find it. And get away now. I think you could still hear me. Somebody tried to disrupt my feed here. It's the man. It's the man. Come on now. I'm trying to say my goodbye, and there's all kinds of problems right in the end. Come on now. All right, guys. Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyways, check out our archive. See if we've talked about something that you want to know about, and if you can't find it there, get in contact with us. We are throttled as fuck, so it's hard to find us, and we don't get like really any activity, but we're out there. We're on all the socials. You can find us. You can watch us live on Twitch. You can watch us live on YouTube. Our archive is on YouTube and on Rumble. We are socials on Twitter and Blue Sky. So we're there. You can find us. We're Social Contract. You can find us. Let us know, if you like what you're seeing, follow us and like some posts and stuff like that. Give us some feedback or whatever. Tell us what you're trying to hear, and we'll respond to you. But otherwise, I may or may not be with you next week. We're going to find out. If everything's chill, I might take a little bit of a minute to kind of stop having to feel like I need to yell at the camera for an hour. Or I might be. So it's going to be a surprise. But just stay tuned. Check us out. And I update on our social pages to let you know what's coming up and what we're doing. So I will see you again. If not next week, then definitely the week after. And by that point, we probably will have Jared back, depending on how close he gets in, and with all the time differences and stuff like that. We may have him, we may not. I'm not exactly sure. So we will let you know. Just that's a good way to find out what's going on with the show is to check in with us. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and I'll see you. So take care of each other, take care of yourselves. Try not to let the bastards get you down.